everybody. Welcome to the Hello Road podcast, where we talk about unique and forgotten cars, road trips, travel destinations, and our current car adventures. I'm Ethan.
I'm Paul.
So it's been a couple weeks since we posted an episode. We kind of got some things that happened. Some life got in the way again. But I think we've got a lot of stuff that we can talk about just in terms of what's been going on with our vehicles. At least I do. I've got a lot of stuff that's happened over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I've got one thing.
Okay.
But still, it's something.
Sure. So. Yeah. Okay. I mean, normally we'd have some sort of theme for the episode, like road trips, or we did a dream road trips thing not too long ago. But I think this episode will be all about just talking through all of our car issues, maybe.
Yeah. Issues sounds about right.
Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I just got the one thing, so I'll go ahead and kick things off here.
Kick it off.
So I was very, very enthusiastic a few weeks ago. I got the wheels and tires for the charade, got them mounted up. Everything's all good. They look good. It's, this dream wheel setup that I had since I got the car, basically. So everything's cool. I'm driving around with it for a few days. But the one thing I didn't do when I was driving around with the car, really, because I only really drive it around town. I'd like to take it to work sometimes, but lately I've just been so spoiled by the fit, and it's like Apple CarPlay and it's air conditioning and all that other stuff.
Air conditioning, technology
that makes it so much more pleasurable to drive than the charade. So, I had the wheels on for a couple weeks, I guess. I don't know the exact timeline of this. And one day I was like, it's easier to go from like my parents' house to my in-laws' house if I just hop on the freeway real quick. And so I hop on the freeway in the charade. This is on a weekend. And as soon as I hit 55 miles an hour, all hell breaks loose.
Oh no. Death wobble.
Oh
no.
So thankfully it was just literally like one exit I have to go. So I was able to, get off the freeway, and everything's perfectly fine up until 55 or 60 miles an hour.
Okay.
I didn't go much faster than that.
Something as simple as like wheel being out of balance or something, or
that's what I'm thinking it is. And when the tires got mounted, they got mounted up at a tire shop that's local to me. I've been using them for years, and they've always done nothing but exceptional work when it comes to mounting tires, and especially like crazy weird, things for them to do, like mounting.
Sure, maybe racing. Just Tony wasn't just drunk that day, and
I don't think it's the case, because I was watching them when they did the actual, the tire installation, and my fear with these wheels, because of where they were, where they came from, junkyard, was that I'm taking a little bit of a chance. Maybe one of them's bent, and they were actually, all of them were pretty true. Just one of them had to have a little more weight put on it, and I ended up putting that one on the rear right. So when the vibration happened, the death wobble happened. It was in the front.
Oh, okay.
So that's so I'm just a little kind of confused on it. Now the wheels had to actually have some machine work done to them so they can fit onto the Daihatsu, just because the center hub bore was slightly too small to fit over the hubs on the Daihatsu, which was kind of funny because it was already pretty big to begin with. But I guess that's probably a reason why it's really hard to find like a place that sells Daihatsu application wheels.
Sure.
So I'm thinking it might be something to do with that, or it might be the fact that I bought those really cheap $150 crappy for the set tires. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
So, I guess maybe swap them to the back and see what happens.
I tried that and still did it.
Weird.
So it's got the stock wheels, and the tires back on it again.
Okay.
Tested it, and mind you, this was after I had changed those tie rod ends on it as well. And so I thought
Mm.
maybe it was my mechanical expertise that messed it up, but no, it actually handles way better and everything with the stock wheels and tires. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, geez.
As it sits right now, Ethan, those wheels and tires are on offer up.
Oh, no.
I'm going to totally lose my ass on them. But you know what? I don't know.
Well,
I've already sunk so much money into them with like the machine work that had to get done, and then little bits and pieces here and there. I'm just kind of over it at this point. And I put the stock wheels and tires back on, and I had my
yeah.
daughter out helping me, and she told me, she's like, I like the way it looks better with these, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Okay. There you go.
thank you. So
All right. Well, yeah,
we'll
just
see.
keep it simple. Stock wheels.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
All right.
That's my only real update.
Okay.
I have. So yeah, it's kind of a down date, not to
Yeah.
not
It's sort
to
of
impose upon the trademark of some of our other podcasting friends that use that term, but it's kind of
Sure.
a down date.
Sure.
But
kind of a Debbie Downer moment. Yeah.
I got to think
All
of
right.
something else fun to do with that car. So
Okay.
we'll see.
All right. Just no wheels and tires. Just keep them stock, I guess.
I don't know. I see so many posts on people, some of my charade family on Instagram, and they've all got some really, unique wheels and stuff like that. It just, for me, it's hard to find a wheel that fits the look of the car, because it's such a, basic car that it
Yeah.
doesn't really, if you put something more than just a steel wheel on it, it's a little much. And I thought that was my whole theory with like the Prius wheels, where they were so kind of like subdued to
Yeah.
begin with, that it would kind of complement the car. But
Yeah. It seems like it was a pretty good match to improve the looks just a little bit without
yeah,
looking too blingy,
right, exactly. Like, not that I don't like the way like RPF ones look on
Mm-hmm.
charades; they look amazing. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like it doesn't really fit the era. And my whole kind of main goal with the car was always to be era specific. So,
Yep.
so we'll see.
Okay.
Back to the drawing board.
All right. Well,
charade fun.
Well, I mean, I guess we started off on a little bit of a downer. I have somewhat of a update that's actually slightly positive. I guess that's actually really positive. I'm actually recording this episode inside my 1991 GeoPrism GSI, mainly because we got friends over and they're using the room that I usually record in, so I get to record in this old vehicle. And the one thing I was realizing was when I was sitting in here is that the smell of this car.
Mm-hmm.
I owned a Prism back when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
or when I was a teenager, and it smells exactly the same as that Prism. It's kind of just a weird thing that, like, how is it possible? Like the outgassing, like, a couple of decades later is like smells exactly the same. But anyway, so recently, not recently, about 6 months ago, this car died on the freeway.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, the GSI model is basically it's got a 4 AGE under the hood. It's got updated suspension over the base Prism. I don't even know if anybody listening even remembers what a Geo Prism is or looks like. But it's kind of based on a Corolla built in the NUMMI plant in Fremont, California, before it became the Tesla plant now. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty cool car. I have one of the hatchbacks, which is one of only 237 made of this year of the GSIs. And so I was pretty excited when I picked it up a year ago. About 6 months ago, car died on the freeway. It made a huge catastrophic clunking sound, and I was pretty distraught and despondent. And I made a video about that. If you want to check that out on youtube.com/HelloRoad. But that was like maybe 6-7 months ago. And since then, the car has just sat in my yard. Based on the sounds that I heard, I just figured, you know what? I've got too many other cars, too many other projects just kind of sitting here. So I'm just going to let that one sit. And recently, I finally had a little bit of time. My wife took my daughter out somewhere. I forget, to the park or something like that. You know what? I have a couple hours here. I can try to figure out what's going on. So I tried a couple things. And there'll be a video about this too as well. But I looked at the timing belt. Timing belt looked fine. There's no holes in the engine block. I finally kind of took a look at the oil looked fine. There was no metal shaving, so I was kind of like, huh, that's interesting. I thought it was sort of a catastrophic failure. I would have expected more to be wrong. And then finally, I was like, okay, let's get back to the basics. I'm a terrible mechanic, so let's just see if I can see if it has spark. It's like, okay, no spark. Okay, that's an interesting thing to figure out right there. Like
Mm-hmm.
step one, check fuel, spark, and air. And then quickly within, I'd say within, I don't know, 5 minutes, I realized that the only problem with the car, at least as far as I could tell, is that the rotor and under the distributor cap just snapped.
Wow.
So I've been sitting on this car, just this broken car, thinking that like the engine blew up or something, just because I didn't have time. I didn't put the effort into like figuring it out. It was just the rotor.
Well, I mean, at least you didn't go out and buy, another 4AG motor and, have it built up and ready to go in and everything, only to find that out.
Well, it's just the stupid thing is like I had been looking. Like I spent time
Right.
like looking for motors online. I was like, well, I guess I better start looking around. I didn't even do anything. That's the problem with me owning lots of cars is that I don't have time to work on them. I also just am really kind of dumb when it comes to fixing them. But at least I was able to figure that out.
No, I mean that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you had it all right.
Yeah.
Air, fuel, spark.
Yep.
So that's basically all you need to know, unless you're working on an electric car or something.
Sure. Yeah.
So, uh,
Yeah. So
totally.
that
Well, cool.
yeah.
So it's up and running.
It's running, yeah. So basically, I swapped out the rotor, obviously, and the cap, and it was it looked really bad. But the thing I couldn't really figure out is why it made such a catastrophic noise, and I don't know if that something else could have happened when that failed. But now that it's actually running, I took it to. I didn't really do anything. I just brought it to the smog shop, and it failed smog. And I think I need to adjust the timing and a couple other things, and maybe I'll just swap out the spark plugs and
Yeah.
wires and a couple other things, just the basics, so see if I can get it to pass. It kind of failed pretty miserably, so I won't stoop to the level of throwing denatured alcohol in the gas tank just yet. Maybe I'll leave that until I'm desperate. I want to see if I can get it to pass sort of
Yeah.
on the up and up. So
Yeah, I think with the rotor going out like that, the distributor's got a lot to do with the timing. So that could have thrown things off a tiny bit. So maybe get it timed, put some new plugs, new plug wires on it, and a fresh tank of our California's best 91 octane.
91. I know. Isn't that sad that we only get 91 here? I remember having 94 back east.
Yeah, it is pretty sad. I remember traveling across country and it's like, oh, whoa, they have like 93 here, 94.
Yep. Yep.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's like that's kind of the big news for my old crappy car collection. The car still looks terrible. I'm actually I'm sitting in it right now. I'm looking at a cracked windshield. The dashboard's still all cracked, and the door doesn't really open properly. There's a lot of things going on with this car. I sort of have intentions of like maybe getting it Radwood ready at some point.
Yeah.
But I figure I should maybe shoot for the Lemons rally first.
Well, I mean, it's so rare. I mean, 237 in that year, and of a total production of not very many. I mean, even in the condition it's in, that's the beauty of those Radwood shows is you could bring it as it is, and people will still be like, "Oh my gosh, it's a hatchback Prism GSI." That would still attract people because
six people.
6 or 7 people. Yeah, because I think the only other time I've seen one at one of the shows was the NorCal show.
Yep.
A couple years ago, but still.
Yeah, actually, the Sonoma Ray, who runs PrismGSI.com, he has a white one. I think it's a 90.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite as rare as this one, but in much better shape than this one.
Just swap some parts with them, Just
I know, exactly. I have been looking around for Prisms on Auto Tempest and try to find some parts cars because I definitely need a lot of things to kind of bring this back up to its former glory.
Oh yeah, trust me, I hear what you're saying. I'm always on the hunt for another charade to bring home that I can pilfer parts from and switch things back and forth, and that would make things a little bit easier.
Yeah,
especially when we're dealing with these rare disposable cars. So,
Well, speaking of disposable, I mean, I'm sitting in here looking at the interior and the dashboard, and what I owned one back in the late '90s. I owned a
mhm.
GSI. Actually, I owned another one of the 237. So I've owned two of the 237 GSIs built in '91 hatchbacks. So I've owned like more than 1% of
That's
all.
right.
So yeah, so I'm looking at this at the cracked dashboard, and the one I owned back in the day, back in the '90s, had a cracked dashboard. So it cracked. That cracked like 20 years ago,
Uh-huh.
and there's I would probably guarantee there's very few Prisms or Corollas from this era that do not have a cracked dash. I think they were still kind of, in the 80s and 90s, they were still trying to figure out the technology of interior parts, you
Yeah.
know, because like the 2005 Scion XB I have now has been baking in the hot California summers for almost 15 years, and it looks brand new. And I think by the 2000s, these car companies have finally figured out how to
Yeah.
manufacture materials that can withstand, the extreme temperatures and sunlight.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I remember like that BMW I had, that was a
Yeah,
2003, and the dash was in great shape, immaculate shape, and it's, kind of been majority of its life was spent in Southern California and even down at the beach for a long time, and
yeah,
it was in great shape. So
hmm
they really figured it out. So
yeah. So that's kind of a challenge when you have a car from the maybe late '80s, early '90s. And I don't think I would be able to find anywhere a replacement dashboard. If I wanted this to look as good as new, I don't think it's possible. And then something like this part's way too big to be 3D printed, I think, or at least at a reasonable cost. So I think at some point you just have to live with the fact that this is always going to have a cracked dash, or just put a cover over it or something.
that's pretty period right there, though. If you get one of those
Yeah,
dash covers,
sure.
Remember my dad's Thunderbird? He had one, and it was like, he thought he was super cool because he had the dash that was like carpeted, those carpeted ones, and they were held on with
Yeah,
Velcro. What was
yeah.
it? There was actually a brand of them. What the hell
Oh,
was
I
it?
don't remember.
Gosh, I don't know. But yeah, I remember that was a big thing. I remember he had it custom
Yep.
and everything too. So yeah,
hmm
I'm sure they're out there. Custom
Yeah.
made GeoPrism GSI dash.
Yes. I guess the other thing is sort of I as more and more people are becoming enthusiasts of cars from this generation, from this era, I think there's going to be more people that are looking to solve problems like this. And I'm
Mhm.
curious if there will be a way to fix this dash at some point, because I think that it is a problem with a lot of cars from this era. There's just lots of interior parts have cracked and they're brittle and falling apart
Right.
because they were meant to be disposable, like you said.
Right.
They, no,
Yeah.
when GM and Toyota decided to build these cars, they figured, they'll probably all be crushed in 20 years, maybe.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
you look at it like, all the hot rodders and stuff of the day, when the parts for their cars became unavailable or just, b- unobtainable in some way, shape, or form, they went out and modified it or made it
yeah,
themselves. And I mean, yeah, that was talking about, the days of when there was metal dashboards and you can
sure,
do stuff like that. And this is plastic, but I do think you're on the right track with somebody's going to come up with a solution, because this is, our generation now coming up with these, 80s and 90s cars that
yeah,
we want to preserve or we even want to restore. And something like the GeoPrism's dash, which is not available anymore, somebody's going to figure out a way to fix it, or at least come up with a very correct solution to fix it and make it look presentable.
sure,
So if
yeah.
not, if not concourse, but
I would hope so. I mean, it seems maybe it's far fetched to think that would happen because who knows? And even in 20 years, are there going to be more than six enthusiasts of Prism GSIs? I'm not sure.
yeah.
But they're. But anyway, so that's kind of the thing. That's where I'm at with this car right now. When I first, I think we talked about this before. When I first picked this car up, I was sort of thinking it would be more. There'd be more nostalgia, of like thinking back of the Prism that I used to own, and I
Mhm.
didn't really get that. But I'm more excited about it now that like now that it's running, I guess.
Well, yeah, you thought you were going to lose it, or at least it was going to be down for a long time, and then it was something so simple to
Sure.
fix, and now it's like, oh, okay,
Yep.
this is actually
Seems manageable now.
manageable. Exactly. I
Yep.
mean, that motor itself is bulletproof for the most part, and still parts are readily available for it. So yeah,
Sure.
this is something that can definitely happen. You can get this thing up and running and, become a daily driver if you wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. And compared to my Nova twin cam, which has the older 4AGE in it, which is the pretty much the spiritual predecessor to this one.
Mhm.
This feels like a much more modern car. And like if you compare this to today's cars, it feels ancient, but it feels much more modern than my Nova.
Right.
So yeah, I would feel like this would be a little bit more comfortable to drive every day if I wanted to. But yeah, so yeah, Prism is making some progress. It's still a disaster to look at, but we'll work on that. We'll work
Yeah.
on that.
I'll come over there. I'll come over there with my the orbital thing, and
Sure.
we'll buff out the paint, or
You
just
don't. I mean,
buff the paint
just
off of it.
you can literally pick off the clear coat. It's just flaking off.
Oh yeah, you
But
don't need a clear coat.
No,
You don't need
exactly.
it. Just take it off.
Yeah.
Well, fun. That's awesome. I'm glad that car's up and running. Every time I see it there, the times I've been up to your place, I'm like, oh, there's the GSI just sitting there. But
Yep.
now we're gonna have to go terrorize your neighborhood in it next time I'm there, because I gotta
Sure.
feel the raw power of the GSI badge. So
Yes. Well, it's. I will say this: it's not fast. I mean, it's if you compare it to a Prism of this era, yeah, it's definitely pretty quick. But even when I owned the other one back in the '90s, it wasn't that quick. I remember, racing around the neighborhoods with my friend's CRX SI, and that was definitely quicker than this. My Scirocco 16 valve was definitely quicker than this. But it's just unique and interesting, and you don't see them ever. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I really, really dig it. And right now the timing is not right, so it's not. It's definitely down on power. So wait till I get that sorted out, and then we can you can drive it around.
Sweet.
So this was great. Getting the Geo kind of fixed was excellent. I was really happy about that. Although I was completely embarrassed that it was so simple.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's exciting. The other thing that happened to me, which is a little bit more of a downer, it didn't start off as a downer because I got some credit with Turo to rent some vehicles and to make reviews of them on my YouTube channel. So that's great. That's been exciting. I did the Knight Rider kit car. I did a DeLorean. I did a Hummer, the Humvee. And I did a Honda Civic Type R. And then last week or a couple weeks ago, I rented a Mustang Ecoboost. So that was, I thought it would be kind of a fun thing to check out. It's sort of on the heels of the Type R and how great that car was in terms of handling and how the, there's no turbo lag and, the front wheel drive. I wanted to kind of see something similar but different at the same time. You got a boosted 4-cylinder, rear wheel drive, sort of the American take on kind of that motor.
Exactly.
So yeah, I rented it from the same guy. It was really convenient. I went down to Playa del Rey area to pick it up and drove it back home. And then I was just about ready to start filming. I was actually driving it out to work. I was going to film like during lunch. Because a lot of my videos, I try to film, like I get a little hour here, I'll film some here. I got an hour there, I'll film there. Heading on the 101 northbound, and everybody was slowing down because they were doing they had a lane closed or something.
Okay.
And slow down to about 40 miles an hour, maybe 30. And then all of a sudden I just look up behind me and this woman in the Jeep is just not slowing down.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay. And she was looking down. I had enough time to see that she was not looking at the road.
Oh,
so I'm just assuming she was looking at her phone. I mean, I don't know what else. Could have been a radio. I don't know. Whatever. But
it was her phone.
Yeah, probably was their phone. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm just waiting for it to happen. And I'm like, this sucks because I just got the car. I had the car.
No.
I probably driven the car maybe 10 miles. I've had it for like an hour. And slams into the back of the car. And my first thought was, man, that really hurt. That's got to be a really bad hit because that really hurt. And I figured I was probably going to get whiplash and all that. So finally was able to get pulled over because I was in the fast lane. So we had to get all the way over to the right-hand side. And she actually pushed me slightly into this person in front of me, but he had no damage. And I just said, yeah, just get the hell out of here. So he took off. We looked at her car. Her car wasn't so bad. It was a Jeep Wrangler, 2018. Maybe it was one of the tow hooks or something in the front, kind of punched a hole.
Yeah. They have
sort of like,
those bar things, kind of. I guess.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not a Jeep
yeah,
guy, but yeah,
yep.
I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, because it's not like like some passenger cars sort of pretty much have foam bumpers. Like this actually seemed like an actual metal reinforced bumper. So
Hmm.
it smashed into the back of the EcoBoost and kind of put a big dent in the bumper. And I realized later that I couldn't open the trunk, so I had all my camera gear back there and everything. I couldn't get into the trunk and had to kind of fish through the seats in the back.
Oh boy.
But anyway, yeah, it was a bummer because I honestly just wish I would have had the cameras rolling because then I could have made a video about it. But I ended up not filming anything with this car because I wanted to get it back to the owner, and because this is Turo, this is like a personal
Sure,
guys, this
sure.
is somebody's personal vehicle. So luckily the insurance went through and it was 100% her fault, and I think she felt bad because I told her how much it hurt when when she hit me. I think she didn't, because you kind of expect people maybe to not kind of be honest about stuff like this. I was sort of
Right.
thinking that she might try to blame it on me or something.
Hmm.
But anyway, got the car back, didn't film anything with it. So I had this EcoBoost Mustang I got to drive it back to, where I took it on a couple curvy roads back to where I picked it up from.
Hmm.
But that's about it. No video. So that I wasted a bunch of time and Turo credit on a video on a car that I couldn't shoot a video with. So that was kind of a bummer.
Little bit, but I
Yeah.
mean, at least, not at least, but you were okay. That was the important
Mhm.
thing, and cars can get fixed, and you've
Sure.
got a hell of a little story to go along with it now. So that's good.
Yeah. I just
Um,
wish that camera had been rolling.
right, I know. So, are you going to try to get another EcoBoost Mustang to do? Because I still think that would be an awesome thing to, you know,
I I think
compare.
sure, if I can find one. There weren't actually, this might have been the only one that was manual transmission that was
Uh,
available around here. It didn't have all the options, didn't have the cool digital dash. It had analog gauges. It had didn't have a few of those other options. Didn't have like the performance package or anything like that. But it was. I mean, I can give you sort of a mini review right now. I think it was fun. It felt heavy, maybe slightly underpowered, tons of turbo lag,
hmm.
and and it's possible that I was just sort of tainted by this being right on the heels of the Type R review that I
Right.
did, which has like no turbo lag that I could tell. And this just kind of like actually when I was pulling out off of the freeway onto a street, I floored it, and it just felt like it wasn't doing anything. And I had it in sport mode, and
Hmm.
I was thinking that okay, this is the Civic Type R would not have reacted like that.
Yeah.
So obviously completely different cars, but just in terms of, motor and response of the turbo and all that, I was a little disappointed with that aspect of it. But it did feel like a Mustang. It felt big, felt like you could get the back to step out pretty easily. So
Hmm.
I was trying to avoid crowds, trying to make sure that there's there's no groups of people around that I could like spin into.
You got to
Um,
scan the
yes.
horizon.
Yes, scan the horizon constantly for crowds. I think there's even like on the dashboard, on the new digital dashboard of Mustangs, I think there's a little like crowd detector just to
Oh,
keep you away from those.
God,
Yes,
these companies just put all sorts of silly things in
I
cars
know.
now. But yeah, they need it for those. So
Yes, it's true. Uh, so that was I will definitely try to find another one to rent, but I feel like, well, certainly if you compare it to 4-cylinder Mustangs of the past. There
right.
was 4 cylinders in the Mustang 2, and then they had all those really god awful 4 cylinders in the early Fox bodies.
Hmm.
And then they had the SVO, which maybe this is kind of like the successor, the spiritual successor to the SVO in a way, maybe.
Yeah.
And that was a cool car. But yeah, it felt like a Mustang, but I can't really figure out who the customer is for this car because it doesn't quite get much better gas mileage than the like the GT.
Right.
So that was sort of what I was trying to figure out. I didn't really have enough time to formulate exactly what the point of view was going to be in this video, but
Hmm.
those were some of the thoughts that were going through my mind when I was driving it.
Huh.
Yeah. So I feel like I probably would not have fallen in love with this car, and I
Yeah.
probably would have felt like just get the V8.
Just get the V8. Well, what about looking for the four cylinders in the Camaro too? Right, a turbo four.
Yes, and I wish I knew a little bit more about the comparisons. I'm sure if I had gone through the whole process of doing this video, I would have researched that. But I feel like that one geez, I feel like that one might be a little bit of a better performer, but
Yeah,
I can't
that's what I'm
speak to
thinking.
that.
That's kind
Yeah.
of what I'm thinking too. I think that was kind of what their goal was at Chevrolet with because it came out after the 4-cylinder EcoBoost Mustang,
Yeah.
and it was supposed to be more like, oh yeah, we'll make a 4-cylinder Camaro, but from what I have read in the past, if I can remember correctly, I think it does outperform the Mustang. So
Yeah.
look into getting one of those hooked up on Turo. I think that would be fun, and then
Sure.
you could enjoy the what is that? The C pillar that's the width of Rhode Island and
Yeah,
everything. And,
exactly.
you
Oh,
know,
that is such a claustrophobic vehicle to drive. The couple Camaros that I've driven, I felt like, okay, how do I see anything? So
you
anyway,
don't.
the Mustang, yeah, exactly. The Mustang wasn't that bad. Obviously, it felt small on the inside, but it wasn't nearly as bad. Like the visibility was pretty decent. The interior, I would say the interior is fine. It was a nice car. I think that if you had maybe the last Mustang you had driven maybe had been like 10 years ago, you'd step into this and feel like, oh yeah, it's better.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to drive one of the newer ones because I owned a 1994 GT.
Mm-hmm.
And so first year of the SN95 for the curvy body, but I still had the 5.0 V8 in there.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was a pretty archaic car, and I went from that to the Mini Cooper, and it was night and day. I mean,
Sure.
obviously, going from a American Ford product from the early 90s to a then at the time new
Yeah.
BMW designed product, it was quite the difference. um,
Sure.
but yeah, it would be. I'd like to get myself behind the wheel of another V8 Mustang to see how much different it was, because I have some pretty fond memories of that GT Mustang I
Uh-huh.
had.
Yeah.
It was a fun car.
Yeah.
It was the right car at the right time. I was like 18, 19 years old when I owned that thing,
Sure.
so it was the right time for that car. I would think I would own a Mustang now, but when I
Yeah.
was 18 or 19, oh yeah, it was all about that V8 life.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the thing I was trying to figure out too, is that the Mustang doesn't really gel with my personality either. At least now. I mean, I could feel like maybe a Fox body would, just because it's
Yeah.
you're getting like, I mean, I love the design of the Fox. I've always loved, like, for some reason I really like the 87. I think 87's when they came out with the flush mounted sealed beam headlights
Yes.
versus the four eyes.
Yep.
And I love the GT with all that cladding. I loved all that cladding
And
with
the slats in the back, and
I don't know why I love that. It's like, but looking back today, it just feels maybe a little cheesy, but I still love that design.
yeah.
But that's kind of like, that's when I think of a Mustang, I that's kind of what gels with me a little bit. But obviously you got to deal with like it rattling and
Yes.
just constantly like wondering if it's going to kill you.
Oh, they're fun cars though. They are
Yeah.
fun cars. So yeah, no, that would be that. The Camaro would be a fun one to do, or maybe just get a Fox body Mustang on
Sure.
Turo. I'm sure they have them because they have almost everything. So
Yeah.
maybe that's how I can fulfill my my curiosity. Go see if I can get a GT and
Sure.
go see how it compares to my old 94 that I had.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely I was definitely impressed with how much they've improved Mustangs, and this was just, it felt like solid, and
Mhm.
and it still had that Mustang quality where you just gotta just avoid people standing along the side of the road.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's fun.
Wild cars, those things are. So wild
Yeah.
Mustangs. Okay,
Yeah.
so we have the Mustang, we had the
Yep. Oh,
Prism.
the other thing, there's a lot of car stuff going on with you the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I wanna hear all of it.
I
Sold.
sold something. I sold my big stupid truck finally.
Oh,
Yep, it is gone. My 2000 Ford F-250 7.3 liter super diesel is gone.
yeah. I live about 50 miles away from you, and I saw when it left your driveway because I saw the guy pulling out with it. That's how big it is. I was like, oh, Ethan's truck's leaving.
Yes, exactly. Well, when you roll coal in that thing, it pretty much smogs over all of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember that too. Well,
Yep.
cool. Because you weren't really using it. I remember you said you bought it as like a tow pig for
Sure.
the race car hauler. And yeah, if you want to talk about a car or a truck that didn't really gel with your personality.
No, everybody's confused when they see that I own that.
Yeah,
You
they're like,
know?
it's lifted. It's got
Yeah. Yeah. Picture, picture.
wheels.
Yeah. So it's a lifted 4-inch lift, F-250, 2000, had this terrible billet grill from the early 2000s. Had these huge fender flares. What are they called? Bushwhacker, I think, is the brand name, which is terrible. So the previous owner had literally cut open the fender openings with
Nice.
Sawzall, put these plastic things over it. It's awful. And I bought it because it was such a good deal for a 7.3. It had low miles, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be fine with how ugly this truck is, and just go for it. And I think I owned the truck for 4 years. I probably only put 4,000 miles on it. 4 years, which is stupid. Like, why did I own that, for so long? But it's one of those things where you need it. I used it just enough, to run to Lowe's or something to put rocks or mulch in it, or we did a few races and I towed, or we bring the car somewhere to, that kind of thing. But, ultimately, it was not very good at what I bought it for because of the lift and because of the extra large tires and the fact that the diesel only made like 200 horsepower or something really ridiculously low. I forget what it is, because it's a 2000. It was a terrible tow vehicle. Trying to get up the Grapevine, which is the hill between LA, Los Angeles, and like Bakersfield, getting over that hill, towing a race car trailer, which wasn't even that heavy. It was probably maybe 8,000 pounds total with all the gear and everything. If I got stuck behind a truck and I was going like 35, I could not accelerate.
Ooh.
I had my old Nissan Titan, which was like 200,000 miles and pissing oil everywhere. That I could blaze up the Grapevine, like going 80, towing 8,000 pounds in a piece of crap Titan. And I was like, why did I buy this diesel? I should have just got another crappy Titan.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway,
Well.
I'm glad that it's gone because it was ugly. It was not very good as a tow vehicle. And I did a pretty good job of sort of cleaning it up right before I sold it. And actually, the other interesting thing about trying to sell a vehicle like this that kind of appeals to rednecks is that everybody that wanted to buy it had some redneck qualities, I would say.
They brought their truck nuts with them to test fit them.
They did.
Right?
Yes.
Make sure they looked good on the back of it.
I bought it in 2016 for $13,000 and I sold it for $12,000. So, and I probably put about $2,000 into it over the course of 4 years of ownership.
Okay.
I had redone the whole front end and did a few oil changes are expensive with that thing and all that. So I'm glad it's gone. I just also kind of didn't really dig owning an old, really polluting diesel. Like, it stank when you got a stoplight. You're like, oh, it smells like a school bus because it was a school bus engine, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that was all pre the DPF systems, like all the new ones have that remove all the stink and the soot from the engine and make things look slightly more environmentally friendly, but not much.
Sure.
And just make it a little more livable.
Yep.
Well, so the truck's gone.
Yeah, and now I'm kind of screwed because if we want to do another, if we want to do another 24 hours of Lemons race, I'm going to have one of my teammates rent a truck or use their truck or something. So
yeah, I mean, or tow a truck. I'm sure. I'm sure there's a brand new F-250 2019 model that someone's got on Turo that we could grab and go up in comfort up the Grapevine, because I think the new ones have something like, I know the one that I have at work that I use is like an F-350 or something, and it's got like 900 pound-feet of torque.
I know.
It's like, okay, cool. This is fun to take off from a stoplight,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that availability is there. You don't have to have the truck as the tow pig, and as a daily. So okay,
yeah. And I would just drive it every once in a while. I would just drive it to work just to use it, and it felt so ridiculous driving this truck to work.
Yeah.
And the gas mileage is generally better for diesels, but it was not very good for this old diesel. So.
And it sucks down that gas fast.
Yep.
It just seems like that gas gauge you go down the street and it's already moved a little bit, the needle has, and you're just like, this is supposed to be efficient, but well, Safe travels, truck.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy that bought it, it was kind of a weird thing. Like he came down, I guess he was visiting from Sacramento, and he came down, he wanted to take a look at it. So I met him at Lowe's because I had to go there to buy a few things. We did a test drive there and he pretty much wanted to buy it. We went to the smog shop. It actually failed smog because I had reset the computer too recently. So I drove it around for 50 miles, got it to pass. And
Okay.
called the guy and it's like, hey, you want to buy it? And yeah, he's like, hey, I'm still just at the mall by Lowe's. I'm like, okay. So it turns out this guy hit a backpack full of $12,000 cash, just
Oh.
walking around like the mall. I thought that was sort of, I thought that was interesting, but I'm like, all right, that's what you want to do. I guess he didn't have a ride or something. I think he was pretty much betting on buying this truck and getting back to Sacramento. I don't know how else he was going to get back up there, but that's how I sold my truck to a dude with a backpack of $12,000 cash.
Makes you always wonder when you see people walking around with backpacks in the mall.
Exactly.
You got 12 grand in there?
Yep, I certainly do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing. So it's off, and I'm sure the new owner's happy as can be with it. And nothing against you, but let's hope that they put the truck to some really good use and get that motor that's in that thing, as anemic as it is with like 200 horsepower, it still has like I think 450, maybe 500 pound-feet of torque with it. So it's a good enough truck, and it lasts forever if you take care of it. And
sure. That's why I bought it. And then I realized, okay, well, why own a 1,000,000-mile motor when you're only going to put 4,000 miles on it?
Sure.
Every 4 years. So
right. So
and it was with a lift, it was not good for towing. So I will definitely make sure if I probably will buy another truck at some point. It is very useful. I kind of go back and forth between little trucks and big stupid trucks. I've had a few small Toyotas, and I've had like a Ram 2500 Cummins diesel. I've had a couple Titans, and so we'll see. I'll probably end up with another one at some point, but I'll try to go truckless here for a little bit.
All right.
Yep.
The time without a truck.
Yes, exactly. We'll see how long it goes. We'll start the timer right now. Okay.
It's on.
I'm actually just bought one on Craigslist. All right, so it wasn't that long. No. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of what else car stuff has been going on. Oh, the other thing is speaking of we can transition from a vehicle that gets terrible gas mileage is big and stupid and polluting and maybe associated with rednecks, and we can transition over to the other side and talk about my Prius, which is sort of known for being a tree hugging, liberal leaning hippie car. So I didn't sell that. I was really, really hoping to sell this Prius, but I did not sell that. So we're kind of going up and down. The Geo is great news. Crashing the EcoBoost, terrible. Selling the truck was great. Now not selling the Prius, we're down back. So it's like a sine wave of emotions that I experienced over the last couple of weeks. So I got it all set up on via Carvana, which we talked about this before, which I believe Lane from Driving While Awesome got rid of his GTI that way. I believe it's a GTI.
Yeah, it was a GTI.
Yep. So they basically, you do all this thing as online, you give all your information about the car, VIN number and all that, and they basically just come and pick your car up and give you a check. And I was really, really planning on doing this with the Prius, but we just couldn't quite pull the trigger on an electric vehicle. That's really what we wanted to do.
Right.
But when you look at the obviously you're going to do a lot of benefit, I think, over the long term in terms of, helping the environment by driving an electric car. And over the long term, you probably do a lot of benefit to, your, just like not having to go to the gas station and pay all that money on gas. But it's a very long game you're looking at. So just looking at new electric vehicles and, this stuff is just really expensive. I test drove a few Teslas. Obviously the Model X we really liked, super expensive, like way out of our price range. Then I was like, okay, there's the Kia Niro EV. So I test drove that one, and it was pretty much the same size as the Prius. So I wasn't gaining anything, which I wanted to gain a little bit of extra space. But that car, it was fine. But it was also $45,000, for a Kia Niro.
Wow, I didn't know it was that expensive.
Well, I think it's maybe like 38, but then because they're in such short supply, all the dealers are tacking on like $5,000-$6,000, early adopter fee essentially. So that's kind of a bummer. And if you're gonna spend that much money on an electric car, why not just get a Tesla, I guess, But it was nice. I mean, the fact that like if you're gonna sort of compare it to like a Model 3 or something, this actually felt like a real car and not a computer. You
Right.
actually had real buttons for things. Like the panel gaps were a lot better. um, but it's I couldn't spend that. I can't spend that much. Like I can't spend that much money on a car, even if it's like really good in the long term. So we didn't do it. I'm still thinking maybe like a used Model S or something could be in the future, but nothing really. And then actually, you might have seen my post on Twitter about this, but one evening I just had a dream about the Toyota RAV4 hybrid.
I saw that, yes.
And I was like, what does this mean? Is this like some sort of, is there any like dream analyzers out there can kind of figure out what this means? But I really feel like it was just a completely practical dream, and my brain was just telling me, yeah, RAV4 hybrid. It's a little bit bigger than the Prius, gets decent gas mileage. Just get one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
It was like an ad in your brain. That's what
it was. Yeah, somehow Facebook has like invaded my dreams, and they know my preferences, my ad preferences also so well. Yeah.
So okay. So the RAV4 hybrid, I didn't even know they made it in a hybrid version.
They have for a while, and the new version came out maybe last year, I think.
Yeah, it's a good looking good looking vehicle. It's got it's definitely, I think, I would say even better looking than the newer CRV. And I'm kind of a Honda guy for like daily drivers, and
sure.
And I think that RAV4 looks a little bit better than the CRV does, at least in their current
trim.
It's a good looking vehicle. So
yeah,
I didn't know they had a hybrid though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So and you look at the price difference, like the RAV4 hybrid, I think, geez, I'm not sure. It's definitely not $45,000. I think you can probably get one for like 28 or something, 26 or 28, something like that. And it gets 40 miles a gallon, and it has a lot more space than the Prius, a lot more usable space. Because my main thing is like I just can't fit in the Prius. It drives me nuts, and I hate it. So the RAV4, there's actually a website I've been using recently called Car Gurus, which has a pretty good way to compare specs of cars. So you can just like, okay, I can plug in my 2016 Prius, and then on the other side make a column for the RAV4, maybe something else, and then you can select like interior space. So that way you can really see, okay, I'm gonna really accurately compare the amount of legroom for my Prius versus lots of other cars. So that way I can rule things out pretty quickly. Like if it has less legroom than the Prius, I'm definitely not even interested in test driving it.
Got it.
So that website, it was actually pretty cool for that. But
cool.
Yeah. So ultimately didn't do anything. Just thought about it.
Well, go down and take it. I mean, we have the 4th of July weekend coming up, and it is one of the top times to buy a car in the United States. So,
yeah, you know what? That's actually 2016. I think it was July 3rd. That's when we bought the Prius.
There you go.
Because they had such great deals, 0% financing, and it was a great deal for an awful car that's made me angry for 4 years, 3 years.
In all honesty, though, Ethan, I think that would be a good choice as long as you fit in it and it fits all the boxes. Because over here on my side, my wife has a CRV, and we've got 2 little girls, and we fit all their crap in it. And we just took it down to the beach this past weekend and fit all the crap in it. Everything was fine. It's like the perfect size. We could cram into the fit, and it would work because the fit's got a great usage of its space, but it's not as comfortable. But something like the CRV, or in this case the RAV4, that's perfect because you can fit your daughter in it, easy in, easy out, and provided you fit in it, then there's really nothing much to lose on that one. So
sure. Yeah, and it's
July 4th this weekend.
I know, exactly. And it's also sort of interesting too, because as a car enthusiast, I don't want to feel like excited. I'm not excited about a RAV4 hybrid, but there is something about like, I feel like having a practical car that you can take your family in and fit everything in and feel comfortable and feel like you're safe and getting good gas mileage. Like it's good to have a vehicle like that and not have a bunch of clapped out hoopties that you don't know if they're going to run.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same boat as you are.
But it's I guess the thing I'm trying to figure out is like I would prefer if there were more maybe wagons on the market, you know? I think you're kind of like as car enthusiasts are sort of like wondering why the this influx of SUVs is just keeps happening. Are people demanding it or dealers sort of like pushing it on people? But really it's like I don't know, maybe people just like being up higher, you know. The only wagons that I can think of that would be something I could even take a look at would be like an Outback, but the gas mileage is terrible, you know.
Yeah.
So I was actually just looking at Kia's press site. I guess in other markets there's a plug-in hybrid Optima wagon, which they do
Oh,
not sell here, obviously. But
no.
something like that, I know that would be perfect.
Yep.
Like a car like that, I would buy something like that in a minute.
America hates wagons, Ethan. I mean, Subaru has a model that's sold in Japan for sure, and then in parts of Europe called the Lavorg, which is basically
Mhm.
kind of like an Impreza wagon or how do I even explain what this thing is? You'll have to Google it, but
Yep.
it's a pretty sweet car. I mean, it's a wagon. It's a station
Yep.
wagon. It's not a lifted wagon like the Outback is, and it's
Yep.
not it's a station wagon,
Yep.
and it's pretty awesome. But I didn't know Kia made an Optima wagon. That's
Yes. Plug-in hybrid. I know. That's like that checks all my boxes.
Yep.
Wagon. I want something that gets good gas mileage, that can fit everything in, and doesn't have to be like, you know, there's just no option for that here.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of one.
It's because everybody wants to sit high up. That's what it is.
I mean, I guess maybe like the Pacifica, like I have a minivan, which is fine. I think minivans are great, but also that's kind of too big, you know.
Yeah,
I have one child. I don't have like a team of soccer kids in the back of it.
Once you hit 3, that's like that then you're in safe minivan territory. But
yeah,
at 1 or 2, you're fine with a CUV
sure.
or a wagon.
Yeah.
Jaguar makes a wagon. I think one of their models, and I think don't they have a bunch of plugins now? I don't know. It might
Yeah,
be
I'm not
expensive,
sure.
and it's Jaguar. But I saw one the other day, and I was like, huh. That's a station wagon Jaguar. It was a newer one. It wasn't an older one. It was new-ish. And I was like,
Mhm.
I didn't even know those things were sold here in the United States.
Yep.
So does it?
I don't know. So
Yeah.
so if any listeners have any ideas for what I should,
Yeah.
with those parameters that we just talked about, any ideas for me, I'm all ears.
Ideally, plug-in hybrid station wagon, not lifted wagon.
Exactly. So pretty much nothing.
That's what 6'4" tall Ethan can fit into.
Yeah, and still have a cart baby seat behind me,
And still have a baby seat behind him.
yeah,
Okay.
which that's the interesting thing about a lot of these cars, like the Kia Niro EV had way more rear seat room, but pretty much all they did was push the rear seats back and make the cargo area really tiny.
Really tiny, yeah.
Yeah, so like you compare the Prius, 'cause the Prius has a lot of cargo space in terms of like, but the back seat room is like nothing.
Right.
It's awful.
That's the battery sits behind there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why that big old battery's right there, the hybrid battery. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Maybe a trip to the old Toyota dealership this weekend might be in order to just see what that RAV4 hybrid feels like.
Yeah, and they finally have Apple CarPlay, which is a good thing. Like that's the other thing that is maddening about my Prius is how bad the infotainment system is. But yeah.
But as we
We'll see.
learned on our trip to Vegas, Apple CarPlay it can be finicky. Maybe it was my fit,
Sure.
but I think it didn't work half the time or 3/4 of the time. But yeah,
Sure.
it does that. It cuts in and out. It's a feature in itself.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're gonna tease you and make you stream music like a low life, not plug it in and use your CarPlay. That's
Yes,
what my
exactly.
fit does to me. So it
Well,
just came back again. So
I am actually just, sitting in this Prism, my 1991 Prism, and I'm realizing that I have Apple CarPlay in here because I can just plug in a cassette adapter, push that in and plug the Actually, well, no, that doesn't work because my phone doesn't have a damn 1/8" jack. Ah!
Well, no,
I have to get another adapter.
You
Two
have to get the
adapters.
dongle. You get the
Okay,
little
the
dongle. You put the dongle and it goes
I've got
in the
that
plug.
somewhere.
Yeah, I have one.
I don't know where the hell that went.
Yeah, I have one too. And then, yes.
All right.
Good
Yeah,
old Apple.
that's kind of. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that I could go into with all the car stuff that's been going on, but I feel like I've been been rambling on about all of the things that have been going on here. So maybe we'll save that for another episode.
We're going to have to give the listeners what they're all here waiting for, and that's a Nissan Stanza wagon update, Ethan. We need to figure this one out.
I looked at it today. The tires are flat. That's the update. It's covered in leaves. It's so sad. This is definitely like, if there's any Stanza wagon fans out there, you should probably be a little bit angry with me, because I have done absolutely nothing with that car. It's just sitting out in the elements. So, the sad thing is, like, I feel like the reality is I'm never going to get to it. And I feel like I probably need to at least get it running and then sell it to find somebody that is... I mean, I love that car, but I just have too many projects. You
do have quite a few projects. I mean, the Stanza's on the other side of your house where...
Yeah, I don't even look at it.
Things go to disappear.
Yes, exactly. I just push it into the street. Maybe somebody will take it. I do really like that car. I want to get it fixed up. The wiring harness is so messed up that I either probably need to like go to a junkyard and find a whole new wiring harness, which will be next to impossible, or I have to make one, or find some sort of other system that I can bypass everything. I don't know. I'm not sure. So that's the problem with that car, is there's some major electrical issues with it, and the previous owner had like done a lot of like bypassing the wiring harness to make certain things work. So I really don't know how it's all wired together. So there's just like fuses and wires and stuff in weird places, and it's like my least favorite type of. I mean, I don't do a whole lot of work on my cars because they just sit here and rot. But that's like my least favorite thing to do on a vehicle is to diagnose electrical stuff.
Well, that's how the Craigslist ad's going to start. It's going to say auto electrician special.
Yes, but I think I can get it. I mean, it was running. I feel like right now the main problem is the fuel pump. So I think if I throw a new fuel pump in it, then I should at least be able to get it running, sort of.
Okay.
So it's not a big thing, but it's also like you can't just buy a fuel pump for a Nissan Stanza wagon. So
no,
you have to like get creative with
something. Yep, creativity.
Yep.
Well, cool. Good update. Lots of fun stuff going on in your neck of the woods. Hopefully there'll be some fun stuff coming on here in my neck of the woods relatively soon. I have some ideas rolling around in my head about the charade, so we shall see. But yeah, I think we can call that a podcast at this point.
Definitely.
We can find you where on social medias?
Yes. YouTube.com/HelloRoad, and on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Ethan Tufts. And also there's a Facebook group you can join, Hello Road Adventures in Unique Cars, where we talk about all sorts of really interesting destinations you can go to, road trips that you've taken, that kind of thing. So what about you, Paul?
You can find me at Paul's Finest Hour on both Instagram and Twitter, where I just like everybody's tweets.
Yes.
And retweet silly things about Bill and Ted and heavy metal music and all sorts of fun stuff. So,
nice.
That's where you can find me at. That's about it. I think that's
probably a good time to end the podcast, because it's kind of warm out here in the Prism. So got my can of Golden Road Wolf Pup is almost empty, so I think that's probably about time
right
to.
I'm gonna have to record the podcast from the charade soon, just so we can do it, and that we'll just do it that way. We'll just record from our cars.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's an automotive related podcast. That's where you should do it.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.